So I've been Ninja Online, guys, and here I have a different video for you today. It's a first impressions video for Waves of the Atlantide. Now this is a game that's in early access. It's still being worked on. I actually got a free key from it from the devs off of Twitter. So first and foremost, thank you guys for that. That was really kind of you, and I really enjoyed that. So jumping into this game here, I didn't really know what to expect. Obviously, after I'd been talking to them on Twitter, I looked up their game on Steam to see what it's about, and it looked cool. I thought it really had a really different aspect that you haven't really seen before. And I mean, to me, it kind of merges, and I can't remember the game, unfortunately. I'll try to have the name on the screen somewhere here. I'll look it up post-editing here and throw it up there. But it reminds me of this one board game where pretty much the entire board game, the water is rising, and you have to do all these objectives before the game runs out. It reminds me of like something like that, and a Catan mix, and I don't know. It's definitely unique, but I think there's still a lot to be done with this game. First and foremost, there's no customizable key configuration, and really all the buttons you need to have are already set. Like you have F1, 2, and 3 for if I remember correctly, I think F3 is your tech stuff. And then I think like F2, one of the other ones is like the city overlay, I think, or the city list and different stuff like that. And then like 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, like all the number buttons correspond to whatever you have selected. You use the mouse for pretty much everything else, except for there's a couple keys you can use to move the camera. But I think by default, it's like Q goes left, S goes down, D goes, I think, either right or forward, and then there's another button. It's a really obscure combination. Like in the tutorial, it says WASD, or I think it was like ZDSQ or something like that. Maybe Z is the other one for if you're using like a different layout. But it defaults to that. It's not WASD to move the camera around, and that's the first thing there. It's not nothing big. Like I'm not gonna not play the game because it doesn't have WASD camera controls. But that's just something to note for specifically the devs, and hopefully they fix that in the future. There's no zoom in and out either, so you have an overhead view. Well, I guess you would call it an overhead view of the map, and it's fixated. You cannot zoom in or out, and I find that kind of difficult because for most games, be it real-time strategies or turn-based games, when you're playing a strategy game like that and it's based off of colonization and city building and armies and stuff like that, usually you want to have the ability to zoom in and out of the map, specifically zoom out of the map so you can see what's going on all at once rather than having to move around. But unfortunately, they don't have that in the game yet. I'm sure that's just something that's going to be in the game in the future. I started the game with a tutorial, and the tutorial it covers a lot. I feel like it was a little hard to understand at first, but after I jumped into a game there, I understood the game a little bit better. So I think the tutorial is pretty well. Like it does its job. It's just with games like these, like strategy, real-time strategy games, turn-based games and all that, the only way you really learn them is by playing them. And it was just one of those things where my first game, which is going to be the footage in the background there, wasn't the greatest just because I was still learning the game. I played a couple of games here. However, the first thing I did was I took the AIs to easy instead of medium. They default on medium, and most of the times I would play on medium, but this is a foreign game to me, so I started it on easy. And even with the AIs on easy, I found that they were almost too hard, I want to say. Like, they were just overwhelmingly powerful. Now, there's a couple things that I want to tie into this. First and foremost, there's dead spots on the map. So, for example, as the game progresses, and you're going to find out, the whole idea of the game is to be the last man standing on this island. There's supposed to be a whole tidal wave coming in. It's supposed to wash over the island, and you're supposed to be the last man standing. As you play the game, you'll find that tiles on the map will start to turn into ocean tiles, and pretty much you want to be on the center of that island, and you want to control that island. Now, the way to do that is through combat, pretty much. I mean, obviously, the early game, you want to start by expanding and growing into whatever you can of a civilization. But then later on, when all that space is taken up, or as tension gets higher, obviously armies come into play, and that's how you kind of bully your way into better positions and stuff like that. Well, through all this, I find that it's hard to do that because, first and foremost, there's dead spots on the map where if an enemy unit is placed there and it's a neutral spot, and let's say all the other tiles around it are controlled, for whatever reason, you can't attack that target because it's in neutral territory. And if they don't do anything with that territory, then they can just sit there. And obviously this is an oversight, but this is definitely something that they got to look at in the future, because I'll have like a part of the video on screen here showing that, but that was one of the issues I found with the gameplay there. The pathfinding is really wonky. I mean, if you click and then you decide you change your mind and want to click again, it resets the unit's movement first and foremost. So it makes it hard to kind of adjust on the fly. You kind of have to either let them get to the next tile, or you have to choose the right one the first time, I guess. But not even that. When you go to click, if you're trying to move units across the map, and keep in mind, like I said, there's no zoom in or out feature, it's kind of hard because, like I said, they either just won't do it or the pathfinding will get all weird. And with that, they'll take obscure ways to get there, or they'll get lost, or sometimes they'll even disappear. Because I've seen some graphic glitches where my armies would just disappear, and the only way I found out to get them back, I think, was hitting the number keys to try to select my idle armies or something like that. But on top of the graphics glitches too, there was also graphic glitches with borders, where the borders would disappear sometimes and stuff. But beyond that, though, there's just a lot that hinders this game right now, but it definitely has the potential to be good. And one of the other things that I think is probably make or break for the game right now is definitely the food situation. So to explain a little bit more about the game, there's pretty much 4 avenues of this game. You build you start with a city, and you start with 1 unit. Or do you? No, you start with a city and you build your units after that. So the whole idea is to use your units to scout and set up more cities, which you can do so for free. The setting up the cities, the scouting costs food and takes a little bit of time. With your cities, you can choose to increase production, which takes production. You can choose to increase the food production, which takes production. You can choose to produce science, which I believe just takes production as well. And then you can choose to make an army, which takes production and food. So the bottom line here is that ultimately you need a good supply of food, because food is a heavy and hefty resource in this game. It's what allows you to make more armies. It's what allows you to supposedly maintain the armies, except for if you watch parts of the video that I'll show on screen later on, you'll see that the enemy AIs will just start running around with a god knows how many units, and there's no way in hell that they have enough food to support those units. But yet they still are allowed those units because they had the food to make them at the time. So I think that if they want to make this game a little bit better, they definitely have to take the whole food mechanic and work a repercussion into it, where if you don't have the required food upkeep to maintain your army, then let's say like the army loses 1 soldier per X amount of time until the food upkeep is, either maintained or, above par, like they have more food than they need to. Just because, and you'll see in some parts of the video here, there was just parts where there was armies and armies and armies. And like I said, I'm definitely not the best at this game, and I definitely think I was playing this game on the lower tier of skill, but still, just with what I expected and how I understood the game at the beginning there, like I said, it felt like you needed to maintain your food, but really the realistic, I don't know where I'm going with that. The reality rather of it is that you don't need food to maintain your army. You just need food to produce the army. And I think that's a really big oversight for the game, which is kind of make or break at this point right now. But it's still early access, so there's still tons that they're working on. Obviously, this could be something that they already knew about and that they're planning to fix in the future. I also just think that overall game progress is really slow. Once you get to the point of the borders being like borders touching and then you're just using armies to expand, the only way you expand through there is by using your army to capture one tile at a time. And it takes X amount of time. I don't know if it's dependent on how many soldiers you have in an army or not, probably. But you need the soldiers to attack a tile, and then you have to basically make yourself a path to whatever city you're trying to capture, and then you capture that city, and then that's just that. Like, it's a really hard concept, because there's not really an easy fix for that because of the way they made the game. And I don't think there's a problem. I think maybe either the tempo of the game needs to speed up a bit or it needs to slow down a bit, because right now it feels like, and like I said, this is just all me, so maybe I'm just really poorly skilled with this, because I still think this is a good game. I would still recommend this game. I would just say to look out for the points I'm saying. But in any case, though, digressing, I just think that it's really hard to maintain a good speed at this game. You either watch the AI grow exponentially fast and it's hard to keep up with them, or you feel like yourself are just moving way too slow, and that's how I felt. I felt like I was moving way too slow. That could just be a me thing, though. I'm not entirely sure about that. There was one instance in one of my games where I'd started in the middle of the island, so ideally I kind of built what I could and, just kind of solidified my position and all that. But at one point I wanted to see something. I placed an army in the middle of my territory, which is the middle of the island. I won that game simply by having that one army sitting in that tile. The AI never pushed me, but then again, they were on easy, so I'm sure they were just being forgiving, even though they were overwhelmingly powerful if you looked around the map there, which I'm sure I'll put some footage of that in. But on top of that, like I said, it was just one of those things where I was just able to sit in the middle of the map. So I think that's just the easy AI. I'm sure if I was playing on medium or even hard, they would have pushed me and surely won. But I feel like maybe just to kind of hinder that a bit, if there was other environmental hazards. For example, if like an earthquake will randomly happen on like a tile like that, like if they implement some kind of system where if the game realizes that there's a unit, like an army unit sitting in one position for too long in like somewhere inland, if they implement like this earthquake system where it gives you a warning, and if you don't move your army, then that tile you lose that tile and it turns into ocean. I think that's a good way to stop that, because this game has multiplayer and it's intended to be played multiplayer if I'm not mistaken, although it does have a single player, which was what I was playing. I feel like on multiplayer, a lot of people would be doing that, just sitting armies in spot and pretty much waiting if you own the center of the map, which would be hard to pretty much break, because if I was a better player and I had that setup that I had in the game where I sat in the middle and I just defended my borders and had that one army sit in the middle, I would basically win no matter what. So that's just something to think about. And then also one more thing to think about too, not that I'm bashing on this game, but I'm just trying to give feedback, all feedback I can. And one more thing I would say is probably just like looking at the tech tree again. I like that tech tree. It's super simple, it's super easy to understand, but I think there should be maybe just a little bit more to it, because it also seems like there's barely anything there. I mean, there's 4 upgrades in the first one, 2 upgrades in the second one, and I believe it was 5 upgrades in the third one. And you get a choice; it's either left or right. You can't get all the upgrades, and I like that. I definitely think that was a good way to go. But like I said, I feel like they should just add a little bit more. Maybe like another 2 more trees with some more different upgrades that you can have or something. Just because the tech tree just kind of seems wasted at the time, although it does help, and it definitely is dependent on what you want to choose, because there's some sacrifices you have to make there. At one point in the game, and you see this in probably both my videos or whatever parts of the videos I'm showing, you just have to, you can stop worrying about tech. You don't have to worry about developing science anymore, and you have the tech tree full out, and it can be early in the game too, which is great because it pushes a fast-paced game, but everything else about the game kind of seems, I don't know, like I said, it was probably just me, but other aspects seemed like it was slower. However, though, all of that said and done, with all that quote-unquote negative feedback, like I said, I just want to be honest with my opinions here. I definitely think this is a really cool concept. Like I said, I've never seen a game like this before. It's reminiscent of, like I said, I'll have to flash the name of the game on screen again right now, but it's definitely reminiscent of that board game where the water rises, and it's reminiscent of like a Catan, and I don't want to say Civ. I definitely don't want to say Civ, but any kind of like civilization building game like that, just because it's kind of reminiscent of that. It's like a bare bones version of that. I definitely think like the game has room to grow. This is early access, so I never take any game that's in early access with a really hefty weight to it. Like I don't look at this game and go, oh, this game is complete shit because all of these negative qualities and, you know, it's early access. No, I think this game definitely is going to be super good because it's early access, but I definitely think that they have to address, obviously, not all of the things I've talked about, but there's definitely certain key aspects of the things I've talked about that they have to address, and I'm sure people are saying either the same thing or different things, and that's completely okay. I mean, the whole point of early access is to get feedback and to see what works and what doesn't work, and I think they're on the right track with what they're doing. I definitely think this would be fun with friends too. I didn't have the option to play the multiplayer yet. Well, not even that. I didn't try to play the multiplayer yet, and I definitely won't have the ability to play with friends. But I definitely will try the multiplayer just to see. Maybe the AIs just make this game a whole hell of a lot different than what real humans players do. Because, like I said, maybe it was just me. Maybe I'm just on the lower tier of playing this game. But I just felt like I was overwhelmed by the forces of enemies I was fighting against when I was playing the AIs. But regardless, anyways though, like I said, I would definitely recommend this game. I would just caution everyone that I would recommend this game to that it's definitely it's an early access game, and that's the first words that you have to be wary about is early access. That means that there's going to be things you don't like about this game. There's going to be bugs, and there's going to be not poor game mechanics, but non-optimized game mechanics and stuff like that. But all in all, I definitely think it's a good game. I like the cool concept of the game. I think they're heading in the right direction, and I'm definitely going to be playing it more off screen here. I might even do more videos on it. Who knows? I mean, I don't really do videos on like these types of games, but I definitely could. Maybe if I get to play multiplayer and I turn out that my skills get better, or they better some mechanics of the game, then this could probably definitely turn out to be some videos on my series here. But yeah, that's pretty much my first impressions of this game. I definitely think it's good. I definitely think it has room to grow. I would definitely recommend it. I just think that there's a lot going on with the game right now that they kind of have to sort out, and that's the whole point of this, right? That's the whole point of early access. It's just to kind of find what works and what doesn't work. Anyways, though, I'm going to end the video here. Once again, I want to thank the devs or whoever contacted me on Twitter from their, I'm going to say, official page for this game, and providing me with a free key for this game. That was very kind of you. I very much enjoyed it, and I'm definitely going to be playing this game in the future. Hopefully my video was helpful. Hopefully you didn't take my video, how do I say this? Hopefully you didn't take my video to heart and think that I was trashing your game, because I'm definitely not. I definitely do like this game. I just think that a lot of the issues I said were some of the biggest, well, I don't want to say some of the biggest issues, like trying to imply that there's so many issues, but definitely the issues I brought up to the table here are definitely issues I think you should at least look at and maybe consider if other players are saying the same thing, or if you think that I'm onto something with my comments here. I definitely think that you should take a look at those. But in any case, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and say, comment down below, subscribe, and share. It really helps me out. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to see more videos, let me know in the comments below. I'll see you later. Bye.